Celebrate with love, remember the lost.
Let us honor and fight for their burdened cause.
Some survived it again, rejoice in their name.
Create hope in the future, support and sustain.
With music as our voice, come together, heal and rejoice.
Hey, Jordan.
Well. I was checking my messages. Are we on the air? I was writing to Dan. No, I wasn't.
No, we are live. Yeah,
I know that. Welcome to lunch with Jordan and Dan Tebow, the fabulous producer and publicist and publicity guy and publications guy. Is there anything you don't do?
The cooking.
Laundry. Okay.
No, I do the laundry, but I don't do the cooking.
We have a fabulous show for you today. Welcome, Facebook fans, both live and those who are going to watch it later. And there are many, many of you as well. And Dan will do some of the showbiz business here before we get to our fabulous panel of guests today.
Yeah, I have some news about your podcast on Mike with Jordan Rich, which I am so proud to publish that for you. You produce it. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
You have over 67,000 downloads, and that is just incredible. You are in well over 100 countries around the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is because you are on all of these platforms. You are on all the major podcast platforms.
I was on the Green Line T-Stop platform in Riverside as well, but that doesn't count. Yeah, all those places. Apple.
Yeah, I heard you almost got pushed off of that platform.
Yes. I'm a pushover.
You can't get pushed off of this platform. This is who we use. Jordan and I use Blueberry Media Host. They create the RSS feed. They give you the publishing platform for all of our clients. We use Blueberry, and we love him. We absolutely love this media host. And if you do create an account with Blueberry, at checkout, use the promo code FASTTWITCH and get your first 2 months for free.
That's awesome. Fast Twitch Media is Dan's outfit, and we work hand in hand and close by. Well, I'm excited about all those people listening, and I appreciate it. I say it every time. Thank you.
I know you're excited about all those people listening, but even with that worldwide reach, we still do not have Wyoming.
Oh, now cut that out.
Yep. I don't know why Wyoming.
I personally wrote to Kevin Costner. I think he's in Montana, but I wrote to him and Sheriff Walt Longmire, and neither one of them returned my calls or my letters. So we got to work on the Wyoming deal, I guess. But let's get to work today. I can't wait to welcome two outstanding people, public servants and people who have love in their heart for others, and also are wonderful performers in various ways. So without any further ado, shall we welcome our guests? Ladies and gentlemen, Mary McManus and Greg Chastain. Greg Chastain, the president and founder of Voices of Hope Boston. Mary McManus, just an inspiration every time. She's a poet, she's a writer, she's an inspirational speaker, a motivational speaker, and a marathon veteran. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jordan.
Hello. Look at all the
everybody.
shows behind Greg. Look at that, man. It's amazing. We're going to show some pieces as we go along, some backdrops, but that's really impressive. Now, before we get started, Dan and I have a little thing that we like to do called 3 Things We Don't Know About the Guest. So that means today it's going to be 6 things about 2 people, 3 of each. So we're going to begin with Mary McManus. What do we not know about Mary McManus? Cue the music, Maestro. All right, Mary, you're on.
Okay. 3 things you don't know about me have to do with Jimmy Buffett, bowling, and being a pool shark. I called into radio contests, and here in Boston on Magic 106.7, I won 4 tickets to a Parrot Head cruise, and they had a karaoke contest on board, and all these young adults are saying, because you could win tickets to see Jimmy Buffett, the hand shot up. So I shut up my hand. Dan Justin wanted to play along, and since I was the oldest woman on the cruise, they had me do the karaoke, and long story short, I won the tickets.
Yay.
So
Wow.
that's number 1.
That's
Number
interesting because
two.
today on the lunch menu we have cheeseburgers and margaritas. Number two.
Number two, when I went to Boston University, I was on the women's intercollegiate bowling team.
Awesome.
10 pin. Had my own ball, and we went traveling around the area, and we won many championships.
Well, that's a strike in the right direction. And the third one?
I think I'm a straight woman here. And the last one also has to do with bowling and pool. I worked at the BU Games Room when they had one at the George Sherman Union, and I used to fix bowling machines. And I also brushed down the pool tables. And one of the managers, after we closed, taught me how to shoot pool. And I kind of became a pool shark. And I was the only woman who worked there. And I used to take the guys on, and I used to beat them in 8-ball.
Awesome.
So you were hustling the guys. I love it. Well, that was, pardon the pun, which is nothing but puns in this show. Your cue, Greg.
Oh God, I have to play the music again after.
Yeah,
that
you
one.
give this music. All right.
All right. Well, Mary and I didn't plan this, but my first one was also bowling, believe it or not. You're looking at the 1977 top 100 bowlers of Indiana, state of Indiana. 1977 12 or 14-year-olds.
Duck pins, right?
No. We had 10 pins.
Oh,
I
10
never
pins.
saw duck
right.
pins or candle pins till I moved to the East Coast. Never
Okay.
saw them.
All right. Well, congratulations.
Number
What, number two?
Number two, I rode in an elevator once with Mrs. Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson, and two of the biggest bouncers you've ever seen in your life.
Okay, that's an interesting one. What's the third one, Greg?
Third one, I was in the Glee Club at Purdue University, and I got to perform for President Ronald Reagan.
Well, that's fantastic. That is, Dan, I think those 6, 3 and 3, were some of the best ever.
Perfect timing, Jordan, as always. Yeah, those were really great. I'm gonna go and check the RSS feed. Not the RSS feed. I got podcasts on the brain. I can't help it. That's what I do. I'm gonna go check the Facebook feed, see who's with us, see if there are any questions. I'm so thrilled that Greg, you are with us, and Mary, you are with us. Mary, you are a force of nature. You look beautiful today. Greg, your voice is like polished mahogany.
Thank you very much.
I'll be back near the end.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. And try complimenting me once in a while with something like that. Polished mahogany. Let's start with Mary. Mary Quite Contrary is here. She's my friend for so long. We've known each other at least 20 years, I think, at this point. Met on the radio and have had a relationship, and working with you has been a joy. Tell us a little bit about the current project, but before we get there, a capsule of your story. People can read your story, of course, at marymcmanus.com, but where are you today, and why are you where you are?
I'll start with the backstory and then come in with why Greg and I are here together, which is really important. The backstory is too, but I really want to get to Read Out for a Cure. But basically, I grew up and contracted paralytic polio, had a very intense and traumatic childhood. And at the age of 53, I was diagnosed with post-polio syndrome, which they said was a progressive neuromuscular disease. And then I'd spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Well, I and the universe and God, divine source, whatever you want to call him or her, had other plans. And I got still and I asked for divine guidance, and I started writing poetry. I sat down at the dining room table, I got still, and I said, what's going to happen? I have an award-winning social work career. I have to leave my job. Things were really looking quite grim, and poetry started flowing out of me. The first poem I wrote was Running the Race, which actually foreshadowed my 2009 Boston Marathon run. I'd never run a day in my life. And poetry just started pouring out of me, and I was inspiring my mind, body, and soul to heal from the trauma and the polio. And it took us 7 hours and 49 minutes, but we went from Hopkins to Boston, crossed the finish line, raised $10,535 for Spalding Rehab.
There you are in the cellophane, looking very proud. Not cellophane, aluminum foil, whatever they call that stuff.
Whatever it is, the foil wrap.
It
Yes.
looks great. Now, Greg is mentioned and we're going to tie the two of you guys together and why you're here. Greg, of course, is the founder and president of Voices of Hope Boston. Tell the audience what Voices of Hope in a nutshell is all about.
Voices of Hope, we started in 2009, and we are a local nonprofit, all volunteer, and we raise money for cancer research at the Tamir Center for Targeted Therapies at the Mass General Cancer Center. We've been tied to them for the last 8 years. And we do it through theater. We have one golf tournament a year, but we're basically a theater company that raises funds. And once we give the check out in about a week, we'll be close to $900,000 in donations over these last 12 years.
It's just
On
phenomenal,
our way
Greg.
to $1 million.
And we've all been touched by cancer, all of us here and everybody watching. But I know you really felt it when your mom passed, and this was a way to give back and in her honor and her memory.
Yeah, she passed in 2009 of pancreatic cancer. It was her second bout of cancer. And I was in a show in Arlington, Aida. Many of my friends were in it, and she passed during a week before we opened. So I went back and did what I needed to do. And on the last weekend, I came back and they let me back in the show. They all voted to have me back. And I started talking with them and realized I needed to give back some way. And theater is what I knew. So I asked them to join me for one night. And here we are, almost 12 years later. We started with 22 people that night, and we've got over 150 to 200 members now.
That's awesome. And there is a show coming up in April. We'll talk a lot about that during this Lunch with Jordan episode. But Mary, you said something about it just pouring out of you, and that delivery of art that comes from the brain and the heart is something that Greg and all the members of VOH know as well. It's that music and dance and expression that is definitely, I'll go out on a limb and say this one, healing in so many ways. Let's talk a little bit about the book that you are now featuring and how it came together and what's special about it, because there is a lot special about it.
Oh, thank you, Jordan. So when the pandemic first started, that in March of 2020, having lived through the polio pandemic as well, we were all devastated, but it really just cut to my core. And I thought, I can't believe this is happening. Anyway, as I did after I was diagnosed with post-polio syndrome, I sat down and I started writing poetry again. I have some poetry books out, and I'd finished my trilogy of transformation. And I really didn't think I was going to write another book. And I started writing poetry again. And the themes were filled with hope, seeing the world healed, seeing the pandemic over, focusing on springtime. And when I go out on my runs, that would inspire me to come home and then write poetry. Sometimes the poem would start while I was out on a run. Well, in October of 2020, we decided for the first time that we were going to plant a flower garden. We thought, we got to do something, right? So while my husband was preparing our yard for the garden, the poem Hope is a Garden flowed out of me. And hence, that's the title of the book. And it's poems and essays from the 2020 pandemic. Well, Dan Tibio, your producer extraordinaire, had done the Cardinal Cafe podcast with Greg. I'd done another podcast with Liz Bruner, and he set my poems that they read to music. So he sends me an email and he said, did you ever think about setting your poems to music with different readers? I said, no, I never thought of that idea. And I wasn't sure where he was going, where we were going. Long story short, I meditated on it and I said, you know what? Voices of Hope hasn't been able to perform. Let's make this a way to fundraise for them. And hence, Read Out for a Cure was born.
Yeah, and kudos to Dan. I know he's in the background checking the feed and doing a whole bunch of things, but he really took it upon himself to do the production. And I was honored to be part of it. Greg, you were part of it. And we're going to hear a sample before we play it. Let's talk about the lady on the screen whose voice you're going to hear and why this is so touching as a tribute to all of us here. Greg, tell us about who we're looking at.
Oh, Karen Nassambeni. COVID hit her harder than probably anybody I know. She lost her husband and she lost her father-in-law within the first few weeks of COVID, and she was in a coma for over 30 days, I believe, in months and months of rehab. After COVID, she was actually in her coma when her husband passed, and so she didn't even know until she woke up. Although to have her tell it, she knew during her coma, which is her own story. But she's just an amazing woman who runs the North Shore Music Theater, and we've been friends for many years. They host us twice a year out there for our shows, so it's quite a fitting honor that she's going to be the voice you hear next.
So let's listen to just one of the poems from Mary's new book that's so hopeful and healthy and healing.
The Gardener. Conspiracy of hope, kneeling at sacred space, confidently pregnant with faith. Spade sifts soil, sensuous scent of spring, tender preparation in Mother Earth's womb. This tiny seed, how does it know? Possessing wisdom beyond what eye can behold, expectant miracle. Divine intelligence slowly unfurls, ease and grace, beautiful ballet. Sunlight, spotlight, center stage. Bees and butterflies surrounding, serenading rebirth. Behold its beauty.
That's lovely. And Karen sounds terrific, and we're so happy she's back and working at the theater. And you guys will be doing the theater thing at North Shore in April. We'll talk about that in a sec. But Mary, must feel great to know that all these people chipped in. The Voices of Hope team chipped in and made this possible with Dan's extraordinary help.
Oh, I'll tell you, it was so moving to hear different people's renditions of my poem and of my poetry. And Karen, it gave me goosebumps. When I reached out to her, she said, "Oh my goodness, yes, I want to be a part of this." And there wasn't one person who said they didn't want to be a part of this production. And it's 40 poems, and I'm not sure how many individual readers, but we've got Sean Allen Krill, who's a friend of Voices of Hope, Tony Award nominee. We have Liz Bruner. We have, oh my goodness, we have so many who Lee Woodruff, Bob Woodruff, people who are very, very busy, and yet they took the time to record and to submit the recordings to Dan, and then he worked his magic and did 40 tracks. And so now it's Read Out for a Cure, and all the proceeds are going to Voices of Hope.
Well, that's just on top of everything else. That's the icing on the cake, the fact that people are being helped. So, Greg, let's promote the show coming up and explain what the show's all about. I'm a big fan of the theme. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Great. First, thank you, Mary, for thinking of us during the pandemic, too, because it was 2 years of no theater, so it was a big help to us and still is a big help. April 23rd and 24th at the North Shore Music Theater, we're doing Rodgers and Hammerstein's A Grand Night for Singing. It's their pretty much their greatest hits in a book musical form. Some of them I've never heard of, actually. There's a few gems in there that are amazing songs, but it's from Oklahoma, Carousel, Sound of Music, name it, Rodgers and Hammerstein show, and
South
one of the
Pacific,
songs is about
King
to
and
be in
I,
it.
all those, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and the cool thing is they're kind of reimagined. I'm in a song called Everything's Up to Date in Kansas City from Oklahoma, but the arrangement is a Manhattan Transfer style arrangement.
Oh.
And there's some gender bending and things like that. So it's just going to be a lot of fun, a lot of dancing. As I said, we have a big cast. We have 65 people in the cast, which is actually down a little bit from what we normally have, but it's just a wonderful show. And if you love Rodgers and Hammerstein, it's a fun night of music.
Well, I've been lucky enough to be in the audience and also to be on stage. I'm seeing a few of these, and I can just tell you the level of professionalism is off the charts. And as you know, Mary, you've been an audience member. The performances are alive with so much energy. These people want to be there. They all have a personal stake in fighting cancer, as we all do. But man, it just comes out like a ball of energy on the stage every time, doesn't it?
I can't even imagine what this year is going to be like, Greg, after 2 years. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. We're going to go to the Sunday matinee. And I just get goosebumps even thinking about being back because, we've gone to the galas, we've gone to the shows, and I imagine that the theater is just going to just burst with energy. Greg,
Yeah,
have you been back you've been back to the North Shore Music Theater?
no, I haven't been back. I mean, I walked in to take some pictures, but I haven't been back on stage or seeing a show since the pandemic. So we're actually coming up on a Monday night. We're going to be taking the whole cast there for the first time to do some walkthroughs, and it's gonna be incredible. Our first
And
big rehearsal was a couple of weeks ago, and it just to be able to sing together. We're still masked because of singing, but just to be able to sing together and dance together was incredible. We hadn't done that for 2 years.
yeah, I was going to say too, if people get a chance, they'll see it on the website, voicesofhopeboston.org. You've done some amazing music videos in the last couple of years. One was at the Battleship, Massachusetts, if I'm not mistaken. Another one's at a
Yeah.
famous mansion. I mean, these are first-rate productions with drones. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on, man. Really terrific.
Yeah, we actually got a grant once we realized how long this was going to be to build a COVID safe recording studio. So we learned how to record, we learned how to go out and do video. We did our whole show last year was video. There were 7 or 8 videos we did for something called Dancing in the Streets. We shot all over the place. We got to spend 7 hours of our own time all by ourselves on the field at Gillette Stadium. The Patriots and the Kraft Foundation were lovely enough to have let us come out there and shoot, which was incredible. But yeah, we did a commercial for the USS Massachusetts down there on the battleship. Crane Estates. We did a video for the MGH Center Stage Gala in 2020 for them during the pandemic. So it was.
Yeah.
We've learned a lot. Ed has learned to fly a drone, which is very scary. And, uh, and our music director Dan Tang also has learned to fly a drone, and his wife has now informed me that he has to stop buying drones, and she blames me for the
Oh, would you
the
tell
drone
both
fetish now.
those guys they don't need to be on the drone when it flies? That's the biggest problem that they have. They fly it
Well, the scariest was
remotely.
we were filming at the Tamir estate. Mrs. Tamir allowed us to film on their estate up in Marblehead, and he had to fly his drone over the ocean for some of the shots that we got. And it was really windy that day, and we thought for sure he was just going to tank that thing, but like a pro, it worked.
I've got a more broad-based philosophical point of order that I want to raise with both of you. And Mary, you said it best. We've come out of the doldrums, but you are somebody who survived not one but 2 pandemics, as you so
Mhm.
artfully said. Um, let's talk about hope in this day and age when the wars are raging and diseases and all the other issues, the price of gas, you name it. What
Mhm.
keeps you going? What motivates you to be hopeful? And pass that along, if you would, to our listeners and viewers.
Sure, thank you. Well, I believe that we have to have hope, faith, and optimism regardless of circumstances. I've seen so much transform in my life. I was in a leg brace, I was totally debilitated. And through my hope, through my faith, through my imagining something better, and through taking action to make my life better, and to make the life of those around me better by raising money for Spalding. I believe those are all things that we can do. I believe that by giving back, by doing good, as you say, that gives me hope. There's always, always something to be hopeful about. Spring. I mean, spring's hope. And so I think it's so vital that we hold on to hope, that we hold on to optimism. In my book, I have all these quotes about hope, and every Wednesday, Voices of Hope posts post quotes about hope, and it's timeless wisdom, Jordan. And I think the worst thing we can do is to become pessimistic. Helen Keller has wonderful quotes about optimism and how important it is. It doesn't mean we're not seeing things clearly. It doesn't mean we're not being realistic. It doesn't mean that we're not grounded in reality, but it does mean that we hope that things will get better, do get better. Look at us. I mean, here we are. Greg's going to have a performance for the first time in 2 years. I ran a marathon, even though I was told to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. And I pray for peace in Ukraine. And I believe that, blessed are the peacemakers. And that's where we can have hope and hope in our heart. I think also when we're grateful for what we have, we can be hopeful about our present life and about the future. And if you keep perspective of, where we were when I first wrote this book and I look back on it, I'm amazed at where we were and how frightening things were. And I remember posting on Facebook, I'm so grateful for a roll of toilet paper. Those are the kinds of things that I think really helps us be hopeful. And I think organizations like Voices of Hope and so many people are doing good. And during the Boston Marathon time, you just look at all the people running for charities and the community coming together. So there are so many blessings. There's so much to be hopeful for. And through writing my poetry, I was able to keep that sense of hope and optimism alive.
Greg, any thoughts? I mean, she says it so well. It's tough to follow an act like that. But
Right.
your thoughts in general as to the spirit and the intense need to be positive in this day and age.
Well, I just look at my own organization and the people that we stayed in contact with, and it's one thing that came out of this pandemic, I think, is that we can now understand how interacting with each other in a positive way is much more helpful and healing than being on social media that we had to do for the last 2 years. It's I was so worried that we weren't going to be able to make it as an organization, and yet our people kept coming back, and they were there for the reason that we're there, to make sure those in the cancer community survived and are doing better. In all the positive notes we received, the outpouring of people I've never heard of or heard from before or got introduced to during those 2 years that are now helping us. It's just, if you see, if you watch the local news, you can see all the good that's going on within the communities and people trying to work together and help one another get through all this. And it's, if you also look back where we were 2 years ago, how quickly that they were able to find these booster shots and everything. So it gives you hope for mankind that we can fix anything if we just put our heads to it in a positive way. So it's it's just we're back. Everybody's kind of back, and it's just moving forward is a very positive thing.
Well said, both of you. Fun question for you, Greg, before we invite Danny back in here for an update. Hi, Danny. How many anthems have you guys done at professional sporting events, and what was the most challenging one?
All right, we've done every major sporting event now. We've done the Revs, the Pats, Celtics, Red Sox, and a lot of local colleges and things. So we've hit them all, which is great. Yep. And we go back multiple times. I'm going to say the most challenging was the one I just did. I had to sing at the Bruins by myself. I'll never do that again. It was the most terrifying. It was the most terrifying moment of my life.
What terrifies you the most? Forgetting the words, because that's the Robert Goulet curse, or is it just hitting the note? Or
no, we've done it. We've done it so many times. The words were there. What was terrifying was I didn't get a sound check. So the moment I sang the first note, I didn't realize how loud it was going to be. So I could hear so you have your headphones on now. Now imagine you talking, and a half a second later, you hear yourself. So you're trying to overcome that and not stutter or look like a fool. So it was probably one of the slower national anthems that was ever sung there, but I got through it, and I will never do it again.
But you did it, and we're proud of you. Dan, welcome back. We have a few seconds left here. What would you like to remind us about?
Ron Early is watching. Harvey Sklar is watching. Kathleen Coughlin is watching. Susan Rubin, Robert Baum is always with us. Thank you, Robert, for always
Yes.
being here. Stephen Matthews is watching. Ken Carberry is watching. Ed Siegel is, as a matter of fact, Ed made a comment that I think I'll try to put up on the screen here.
It is probably Roy early. Roy just can't type very well.
Oh, maybe I got that one wrong. I don't know.
That's okay.
Ed Siegel says, I
Siegel.
only crashed it once.
The drone.
Oh,
Ah. Thanks, Ed.
There you go.
Yep.
Well done, Ed.
And
Well, with a name like Siegel, you'd expect him to know how to fly.
well,
oh,
the feed today has Elizabeth Healy is with us. Daniel
Oh.
Tang is with us. Brian Fournier is with us. Robert Rosenberg. Steve, I think I said Steve Matthews, Scott Jedry. The feed really has blown up completely. We want to thank everybody for coming on today. I don't think we're going to have time for any questions, because what I really want to do next is I want to show everybody
Good.
wonderful websites. First off, vohboston.org. Please go here and check out all the past shows, the show that's coming up, of course, A Grand Night for Singing. Also is the Voices of Hope Memorial Golf Classic that's coming up, the 12th annual one, back on the course. Here's where you can sign up. We encourage you to do so. And there are also on this site ways to donate. There's a lot to do on this website. There's a lot to do and see. So I encourage everybody to go there. How to help. There's galleries. And of course, Greg's and Ed's wonderful podcast, The Cardinal Cafe. All the back episodes are here on the website to listen to. There's Sue Tab we just put out the other day. There's Jordan. Jordan, you're on the show as well.
Oh,
But there's some wonderful, wonderful Bob Halloran, Elliot Tattleman from Jordan's Furniture. My God, it goes on and on and on. Please go here, subscribe to this podcast, share it with your friends. Also, here is Mary's wonderful website, and this is marymcmanus.com. This is where you can learn a lot more about all the wonderful things that you are doing, all the great media that you've gotten over the years. And you can buy the book here. You can get links to purchase Hope is a Garden, which I have my copy. I'm so grateful for it. It's a go-to for me. And then we have Read Out for a Cure. And this is where you can access the wonderful audio version that we profiled. And let's see, I know I have it here somewhere. I have a little overlay that gives the exact information on how to do it. To order your link to download this inspiring production to benefit cancer research, send $10 via PayPal to marymcmanus@gmail.com or Venmo. And Mary, you will then send them the audio file. Is that correct?
that's correct, Dan. Yep.
And I can't find that little link. Oh, no, there it is. Ba-doom.
Ah,
There we go. There we go. So just
Fantastic.
follow those directions there, and you will be able to get the version in here. All those wonderful, I mean, it was just such a pleasure for me to work with all those different people and have them on my my computer and listen to them and put the music under it.
Kudos
It was
there,
just,
Danny.
it was just
Well done. Well done.
mind-blowing.
Very,
Yeah, it was
very proud
mind-blowing.
of you for that. Very proud. Well, guys, thank you so much. I can't wait to see the show in April. We'll be there. We're hearing the music of Voices of Hope. Mary and Greg, keep up the great work. You guys are phenomenal friends and public servants of the first order. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you for having us.
Greg.
It was a pleasure. Danny, thank you, my friend. We'll see you next time. And as always, be well so you can do good. Take care. We'll catch you later.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Greg. Bye, Mary.
Bye.